Hey everyone, this is Austin Schur here with We Write About Music, and today I am speaking with Marc Ambrosia. He has just released a wonderful new album called Edge, and I am super excited to talk to him all about it. Marc, I want to thank you so much for coming on today. How are you? What's going on?
I'm doing really well, Austin. Thank you so much for having me
Yeah.
on, and for all the positive praise you've heaved onto Edge. I really appreciate it.
Yes, I'm really excited to talk about this record. Obviously, it's been a long time coming, I think,
Yeah.
and really the first thing that I want to jump right into it. What is this album about? Is it a series of individual stories, or is it like an overarching message going on here?
It's funny. I think while I was making the record, it seemed like the first record that I was making where all the songs were sort of about different things, and it wasn't like one general theme. But then in retrospect, when I kinda listen back to it, feel like these songs all do have some common threads, and I think a lot of these songs are longing for connection, longing for, unity. There's a lot of internal conflict going on and a lot of, um, brooding going on.
Yes.
And I think, part of that was in large part because these songs were all written during the pandemic and
Yeah.
the stay-at-home orders, and, when you're just pacing around the same 4 walls with nothing but your thoughts, suddenly, it all comes out. So, I think the album as a whole kinda sounds like therapy session breakthroughs, you know?
Yeah, you know what? That is an all too common sentiment nowadays, but at the same time, like, we have all had our own unique experiences, and some people have diaries, some
Mhm.
people go to therapists, and some people make full-length albums to really get the message out
Yeah.
there, and, why not add more beauty into this world? Um, and like I mentioned, I've had the opportunity to listen to it in full, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. One of the major standouts is that there is some seriously beautiful instrumentation going on here and production. Did you have any outside help putting this together, or is this just you? Like, what was the process of putting it all together, really?
Absolutely, there was, I mean, I say outside help, but I mean, I really consider everyone that I make the record with a family,
Yeah,
even though a lot of this record was done by remote recording because of the pandemic.
exactly.
But, all of the people I've ever worked with on any record, I've been really lucky. I've not encountered any, like, divas or, major egos or anything like that. Like, the
In the
most
music industry, shocking.
Yeah, it really
Shocking
is.
to
I
say
I
the least.
consider myself very lucky,
Absolutely.
um, because I find the best people to work with are the ones with the humble souls,
Right.
and I always say that I would rather work with a mediocre, uh, instrumentalist who's very humble rather than an expert player who's,
Yes.
less than desirable in terms of
Completely
character,
reasonable.
So, but I hit the jackpot because I got great players with great personalities, and so Christy Antonio is someone who played guitar all over this record, and he's played on all of my albums over the years.
Yes.
Um, I worked with a guy named Ben Morris on a song called Second Chance, and it's our first time working together on anything, but definitely not the last. And he's someone I've known for a long time, but we've never worked together, so this was fun to be able to do that. And then, with the 2 Erics, Eric Walt, who played, keyboard and piano on songs like Mother's Day and What If I'm Right, and then Eric McNellis, who played guitar, bass, and, mixed and engineered the record. So, it was kind of a small crew, just the 5 of us, but,
A
it
small
uh
but mighty crew to put this thing together because
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, I
And
don't think
I
yeah.
played more on this record than I've done before, because usually, I write the songs, I sing the songs, and,
Yeah.
then I kinda just make the decisions, but this time, I did a lot of the demos myself, and
Okay.
early on, Eric McNellis said, "Well, some of these parts on the demo sound really good, why can't we just drop these right in?" And that kinda gave me confidence as a player to start, doing more things at home and playing, Fender Rhodes or
Right.
percussion and stuff and putting that in there.
Love that. I mean, there's, like, so many major standouts for me while listening to this, but I think that really sticks out the most is that this record doesn't necessarily hold itself to one style or genre. Like there's tons of influence and there's tons of inspiration coming in. If you sort of had to call it one thing or put a label on it, do you have something in mind of what you would say?
That's always a hard question for me because
Yeah,
I do like to jump outside of a box and then jump into another box and then jump
right.
into another one and then just free myself from all the boxes and do whatever.
Right.
Um, and it's funny because of a few years ago when I put out my last record, Unleashed, one of the reviewers said something along the lines of, Mark Ambrosia has a great knack of, doing a bunch of different styles, but he should really just pick one lane and stay in it. And to me, I totally disagree with
I
that.
fully disagree with that as well.
Ah, thank
Sorry,
you.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I think at the
Yeah,
end of the day, like, you're the one that's spending all the time and energy putting this thing together. I think still, like, from listening to start to finish, there's a cohesiveness about this, and you can still feel that while each song takes its liberties, in the style, at the end of the day, like, it still sounds like one full record album experience from beginning to end, and you are gonna do what makes you happy, like, you're not making music for other people, so keep doing what you're doing.
absolutely. Well,
Make the
thank you.
music you want to make.
Yeah. Thank you for realizing that because I
Yeah,
think that was always my feeling too, is that I do maybe jump around genre-wise, but as a record, it sounds like a cohesive project.
yeah,
I thought that of Unleashed, and I think that of Edge too. Um, so, I do jump around genres a lot, but I think that, yeah, I tried to make this record something that confounded expectations or certain feels, just when you
yeah,
think the album's going in one direction, like we're moving over here and we're doing something else. So
sure.
I think that makes for an interesting and more immersive listening experience for anyone who's listening to the music. So
Yes.
that's really I want to make sure I'm giving my listeners something unexpected and at the same time some things that they would expect and mix it up the whole way through.
Totally, and I think from a listener's perspective, for me, listening to the same song over and over throughout an album, like, you have every reason to leave. Our
Right.
attention spans are completely shot nowadays.
Uh-huh.
People can't pay attention. That's why the single is so, um, that's why people just
So
listen to one
prevalent,
song.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly, one
Mhm.
song at a time. But by the shift back and forth, it's like, "Ooh, what's gonna come next?" There are twists and turns, you know? And then the obvious kind of follow-up to that is, like, I don't wanna rush you into the next thing, but do you have an idea what you might do on the next single or album, like, in terms of experimentation maybe?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things happening all at once.
Yeah.
I have about 12 demos
Oh, wow.
that are stockpiled up, some that were written around the same time as these songs on Edge, and then some that were, written more recently, like, last week, 2 weeks ago, something like
Sure.
that. And those songs all seem to be more full band oriented and kind of more of an alternative rock bend with a little bit of like funk and groove thrown in
Oh,
there too. So
alright.
kind of a cool hybrid.
I like that a lot, I'm looking forward to it, but again, no rush.
Yeah,
That's
no,
the
I'm
thing.
looking
Yeah.
forward to it too.
I think that's the thing with being an artist is like, yeah, like, this album is done, but you can't turn off the creativity. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
You're not just going to disregard whatever pops into your head because you're working on something else. Just be organized and keep folders of whatever comes your way, I suppose.
That's exactly it, and I like to kind of do hybrid things. I remember saying one time to my friend when before I was getting ready to make Edge, but I didn't quite have the songs yet. And of course, you think that the songs you do have are going to turn into something else, and then they totally shift as you start making them.
Right.
And I kind of was telling my friend, "Yeah, I think the next record's sort of going to be a mix of bossa nova and punk rock." So it's just like the
Jeez.
strangest things I
Yeah.
like to kind of bring together and mold. So this record didn't quite become bossa nova punk, but maybe that's somewhere in the pipeline.
Well, I'm fully into that. As a lover of both separately, I can't wait to hear whenever that might come.
Yeah.
So, like, over the years of making music, obviously you've been through this process of starting a song and finishing it, and then putting an album together. Do you or have you found that your process has changed at all, or is it kind of like an equation for you when embarking on a song or project?
That's Interesting because every time I finish a record, I kind of think that I'm going to recreate a new process and it's going to happen in a different way.
Sure.
And usually what winds up happening is I kind of fall back to my same routine of writing a bunch of songs, and then when I have a bunch, then I go into the studio. But like after I finished Edge, I thought for sure, like, oh yeah, the next thing will probably just be, a couple singles or maybe just an EP, and I'll just write 5 songs and go record them, put them out, and then jump into the next thing. But then, you start writing all these songs at once, and now all of a sudden I have a dozen songs, and it's
Um,
very hard for me to imagine those songs being divided up into smaller projects. So,
right.
we'll see what happens, but um to me, my first love is always the full length album experience.
I agree. And listen, you don't want to hold yourself back. Obviously, like, yeah, it's a good problem to be too creative in a sense, but I think that like the most music you can put out, as long as the quality stays high, that's really what matters.
Yeah,
There's also no rules nowadays in the music industry. People do whatever they want and release 10 albums a year if you're capable of it. So
absolutely.
whatever works for you.
I would love to be at that level. Maybe one day I will
One
be,
day,
but
yeah. Totally.
I take my time, but
Yeah, of
I definitely, there's always a lot of ideas happening.
course.
And, I may not write a full song every day, but there's ideas happening every day and things going into the voice memo and the notes and stuff like that. And then eventually they all fester to the top and I make something. So,
Beautiful. That's what it's all about. Are
yeah.
you playing shows? Or if you're not, is that something that you have planned in the future?
So it's been a while since I've played
Yeah.
shows actually. Because really it became a financial thing because
Yeah.
I was taking a band out and, paying a band to come and play with me. But then, a lot of these venues weren't really paying. So it kind of became a vehicle of shelling out money and nothing coming in.
Right.
Not that I want to solely perform just to make money, but I
No,
don't want
but
to
you
perform and lose
right,
money,
exactly. Yeah, no, it's not even
um,
break even. Like, come on.
yeah, so, I'm hoping though that, maybe I'll work up the courage to take a go out myself with a keyboard or something and play some of these songs and hit up some open mic nights, which is something I've not done in,
There you
a
go.
long, long while. So, it would be fun just to get out there again and give these songs some life on stage.
No, they deserve it. But at the same time, it's so incredibly tough, especially with this record. I feel like, yeah, you could have a backing track and you could have like, the instrumentation behind you, but so much of this record pops when you're on, when you're on stage, and yeah,
Yeah.
that's gotta be tough. You'll figure it out though. No,
Yeah, I hope
again,
so,
no
fingers
rush. It'll
crossed.
all be good. Um,
Yeah.
I did, like hypothetically speaking, would you have a favorite song off this record that you really like to perform?
Oh, I love the old kinda soul ballads, so, like, something like "What If I'm Right"
Okay,
is something that would just be so much fun to perform live, and it's I think that song has the potential to be, a show-stopping piece, so that would be the one I would be most excited about playing on
nice.
stage.
One day it'll happen.
Yeah, very soon, hopefully.
Totally. So we are almost at the end of the year, which is crazy to even say.
Yeah.
I'd love to know what again, hypothetically and like lofty goals you've got going on for the next year. Things that you'd like to see happen or things that you have in the works. Obviously, you don't need to talk about it if you don't want to.
No, there's loads of things in the works. One interesting thing that kind of developed out of thin air and then just sort of became this project is a demos compilation album that
Oh,
me and my assistant Alicia recently put together. We were digging through hard drives to find an instrumental version of a song that we were pitching for a movie soundtrack,
nice.
and as we were doing that, we came across this really beautiful demo version of an old song of mine called Footprints. And I just thought, wow, this sounds really good. I wish we could do something with this. And then just didn't really think about it for a while. And then I just sort of went back to the hard drive and explored more and just found some really awesome demo versions of songs that I've recorded over the years. And so we've put together a record that's pretty much in the can. We just, kind of have to master it and tweak it up. But demo versions of some of my most popular songs from all of the different records I've done, and then also some demos of songs that never went out, and now they're finally going to get a chance. So,
Amazing.
so that's a fun kind of one-off compilation records that will hopefully come out at some point in 2023, maybe the end of next year. Maybe we'll be sitting down and talking about that.
I hope so, man. I mean, it sounds like, yeah, there's a ton in the works. It's just finding the time and the resources to put it all together. I love that
Yeah.
though. I've got a
And
couple
I've
more.
also
Oh, yeah,
recently,
please.
I'm really excited about these. I randomly just was in my studio and was working on a few different things, and just found myself with these musical pieces. And then when I was trying to think of lyrics to go with them, I just started singing other people's songs,
Yeah.
and just because it was like a natural fit. And so I've got some covers in the works that I've not really recorded many covers
Okay.
over the years. So a really, songs of other people's, but done completely in my own way. Um, we have a cover of Wonderwall from Oasis that,
Sweet.
it sounds very, very different than their version, which
Okay.
my friend is like, "Just put the demo out now, it's gotta go out."
I
And,
know.
but I'm insisting on finishing that and getting it out there in its proper fashion, and also an old Michael Bolton song that, just kind of,
Random.
yeah, super
Okay.
random and totally done in a very sort of esoteric alternative rock way, which is
Yeah,
totally
yeah.
different than Michael's version. But so interesting, cool, weird stuff going on.
I'm into it. That's actually perfect because I wanted to know, like, what have you been listening to? What's been at the top of your playlist, or even like a local artist that you'd like to, get out there.
Oh my! So, well, I recently became a fan of Death Cab for Cutie, which
Nice.
is someone that I've always heard of, but
Yeah,
never
yeah,
quite got into. And my friend and I were recently binge watched this series from like the early 2000s called The OC,
yeah.
which I'm
Yep.
sure you've heard of. I'm
Yeah,
sure
yeah,
many
of
people have
course.
heard of, and I slept on it for years and loved that show. And like
Mhm.
the main character's favorite band was Death Cab,
Right.
and I just started missing the show so much. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to listen to Death Cab just to feel like I'm watching the show again.
That's
And then
awesome.
I became a huge fan. So, so I've been listening to a lot of them. I've
Nice.
been getting into Michael McDonald, who
Hell yeah. Okay.
obviously is, an older artist.
Sure.
And when I was growing up, I had his like he had an album of him singing a bunch of Motown songs, and I loved that. And now I'm getting into all of his other stuff that's really
Awesome. That's such
cool
a
and soulful.
wide variety.
Yeah, it's a wide range, it runs the gamut, and,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm trying to think of who else I've been listening to. Oh, well, Julia Lattacoon, I don't know if you've heard of her.
Nope, never.
She's sort of like the new Tracy Chapman of this generation,
Oh, okay.
and, she's got just such an amazing album out called, "In Defense of My Own Happiness." And she's gotten a bunch of songs in TV shows and movies and stuff like that. So if you haven't heard her yet, I'm sure you'll be hearing plenty of her soon.
I haven't. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I actually just saw Death Cab play last weekend. So if you
Oh,
ever get the opportunity to see them live, they put on a fantastic show.
I too
I'll say
actually
that.
just got the chance to see them live.
Where?
It was in Philadelphia. They were playing at the Met, and
Oh, sweet.
I started listening to them. I'm like, oh, I wonder when they're coming to town. And they were 2 days later, I was at the concert.
Oh, that's
So
perfect.
I binged all the songs, and was up on my feet the whole time during the concert. It was very fun.
Awesome, man. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Um, Mark, I've got one more question for you.
Yeah.
I want to know, for the person that is going to discover you from this, and for the person that's going to listen to your music for the first time, what is an opening message that you'd like to say to them?
What a great question. Opening message, I just hope that throughout I believe that we as humans are more similar than we are different, even though we all come from different backgrounds and have different life experiences. I think there's a lot of similarities we share. And I hope that in my music, they can find a little bit of themselves in it, and, and then also find a little bit of everyone else. And so, my goal is that my music just brings people together and allows people to feel understood, and that hopefully they feel validated, they feel understood, they feel heard when they hear my songs. They feel like I'm singing to them. You know, I believe that all
Yeah.
great songs are written about you and everybody else, while at the same time being about you and nobody else. So that's what I'd like people to kind of take away from it.
No, that's a fantastic answer. Seriously, Mark, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your day. Please let me plug your music for you one more time.
Absolutely. Thank you so
Um,
much.
by the time this comes out, Edge will be out. We will have the links and the articles that people can listen and share and follow along and do all that fun stuff. But I also say that it sounds like there's a ton more coming in the next year.
Yes.
Some super interesting things on the way, so keep tabs. And yeah, this has been great. I want to again thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you, Austin. I really do appreciate it so much.
You're very welcome. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, and I hope to speak soon.
You too.
All right. Talk to you
Peace
later. Bye
out.
bye.